Hey everybody, Tom Barnes, stories from the 78. This Sunday, we're getting Halloween started a little early in the West Loop. We have the Sideshow Villains, Deviant Cabaret. I have Dante Ingram here. How are you, Dante?
I'm doing great, Tom. Nice to see you.
Nice to see you. Thanks for taking time to chat with me. You guys are in the thrills of the beginning of the rehearsal process for a show that's coming up here on the 27th. And what's the name of the theater that it's in the West Loop?
Alhambra Palace.
Which is also, like you were saying before, like also a restaurant as well?
It is, yes. People can order food if they are so inclined. Not required.
And run through like what this event is, because it is a Halloween season. People like to get out and do fun things, but this is more than like your typical, like what people might think of a Halloween event where it's like a haunted house per se. But this is more. There's a lot of theatrics involved in this.
Yes, if you come to the show, you'll see live music from my band, Sideshow Villains, and interspersed with the songs, you'll also see circus and variety acts. The songs are all about crime, lots
Yeah.
of murder, lots of addiction, murder, lots and lots and lots of murder. And the stylistically, it is very cinematic. There's things inspired by Hollywood soundtracks. There's other songs inspired by 1960s lounge. So in terms of what you'll hear, it's not like a haunted house. It's not horror music, but it's acoustically very much like hearing stories, I think would be the best way to describe it.
So is this your baby? Is this something that you like conceptualized and then just kind of put this all together with the community that you are in, as far as the burlesque or what have you, that is the theatric community in Chicago?
Yes, I'm more of a part of the circus community in Chicago than the
Hmm.
burlesque community. I did burlesque 20 years ago, but I haven't been in that community since. And the circus community in Chicago is really thriving, and a lot of people don't know there's several studios where people can learn and perform. And I'd like to get Chicago Circus out to more venues, and that's part of what inspired me to do this show and the way that I'm doing it. There's some
Hmm.
incredible performers here that are going to be in the show. They perform nationally, some of them perform internationally. They're incredibly skilled, and oftentimes people don't know who they are. And so if you go to my website, you can see their bios and photos and get links to their Instagram. And I would encourage anyone watching this to please check that out and follow them.
Well, since you brought it up, what is the website?
It is sideshowvillains.com.
It looks like you have something behind you that's part of the show. What's going on behind you?
I do. This is my piece of burlesque that I'm carrying with me into the show. She's the Queen of Blades, and she is a fan dancing marionette who will be in the show as part of
Oh,
the
that's
act that I
cool.
open with. I will also be using giant burlesque fans, but I'll be keeping my clothes on and going up on the silks with those. If you want to see her move a bit, I will
Yeah.
show her doing a couple of things.
Yeah, absolutely. So this is just hanging out in your workshop.
Yes. Yep. She's
Wow.
she's just here in the workshop.
So, and she has a whole routine that this goes on, and you said you were up in the silks?
No, I won't be on the silks with the marionette. She will be on the ground and stay on the ground, and then when I'm done using the marionette, then I will go up on the silks.
Oh man, that's cool. So where does one get a marionette like that? Is that something that within the community that people build for you, or is that something that you do yourself, or how does that whole thing work?
I built her myself using 3D printed parts.
Wow.
And I ordered the 3D pattern from a company in Czechoslovakia, and they're marionette experts. And then I actually worked with a marionette expert here in Chicago. His name is Stephen Witterman, and he was instrumental in teaching me how to string her, how to make her move better, how to improve like where the strings were attached.
Wow. I've done something similar with the Fringe Festival, and then there was something at the Fine Arts Building on Michigan Avenue. They had something where I saw something similar. So, and you were talking about the community. So it's interesting to hear how that community kind of connects through all the different events here in Chicago. And I'm sure You guys do this all year long, but I imagine there are busier times of year than others, right?
Oh, definitely, yes. Part of the reason why I'm having my show on a Sunday, all of the performers and the musicians are incredibly busy. All the musicians that are involved are session guys. They're also in multiple bands. Chris Siebold has just gotten back from being on tour with the Prairie Home Companion. Greg Nergard was out on international tour, I believe, earlier this year with Sarabi. And Joanne Doherty is incredibly hard to catch. We're lucky enough to have her coming in to play accordion with us.
Man, and then you put this all together. How long does this experience last? Like when people are going there, what are they in for?
Probably around a couple hours. That's my guess. You never know until you're actually in the live show, but that's, I believe, what it ran last year, and it's a pretty similar show this year as well.
And you have all the pageantry that you're talking about with the marionette, and then you were mentioning the other acts that you have. What's your favorite thing about doing something like this?
I really love working with the people that I'm working with and seeing what they bring, because they're all artists in their own right, and all of their acts are their own. So
Oh,
everyone that comes in, like all of their movements are their choreography, and they're gorgeous creators. And I'm so honored to be sharing a stage with them, and so thrilled and grateful that they all said yes when I asked.
and you mentioned the fact that the circus community is large in Chicago, but a lot of people just don't know. Why do you think that is? Is it just because it's not like in the mainstream right here in Chicago? Is it something else? What is it?
I think it's a cultural thing. I think that in the United States, people know all the names of their favorite baseball players, but they wouldn't even think to look up the name of the person that they saw in Cirque du Soleil. And
Oh, I
so
see.
even though from an athleticism point of view, both of those people have incredible skills and are incredibly strong and have to work very, very hard to get the abilities that they have. But it's just not something that people really think about as being something to follow necessarily. And so it's tricky because I think that people just don't know that they could. Like they could see Haley Larson, who's our Sear Wheel performer. She'll be at other events and other venues, and you wouldn't know unless you knew her name and to follow her. And same thing with Camille Swift, who's doing a sling act in this particular show. And Chris Rooney has his own production company, Purple Onyx Productions. So he's doing
And
a lot of things around town.
and you mentioned yourself, you did burlesque, you said 20 years ago, and now you're up in the silks. I don't know. I feel like the silks and the burlesque are, as far as athletic prowess, I imagine they're all each have their own thing. I mean, is that like common for folks to have different skills within the genre that you're in?
Oh, I'm not really sure. I'm not sure that anything I do is all that common.
Fair enough. So how did you get to like did you started off in burlesque and then just what fell into this a little bit more by finding other avenues to harness your talents, and then you were like, "Oh, I'm going to try the silks." Cuz like I don't know, like I can't even fathom getting up into the rafters of any building or anything that for that matter and do what I've seen people do on with silks. It's incredible.
Well, I started out doing music initially. So I was writing songs and I was doing music. And my dear friend, Mark the Knife Faye, who's also going to be in the show, he's a dangerous comedian. He's toured all over the world. He was on tour with Nine Inch Nails. He was with the Jim Rose Circus. And
Wow.
he was on a tour many, many, many years ago. And I wanted to leave town. And so I said, hey, could you use a knife throwing assistant? And can I just please jump on tour with you? And he said, sure. So I started off working with Mark in his shows, being the knife throwing assistant and the fire torch assistant and the person that held the objects to get whipped out of your hands assistant. And I wanted my own act. And this was really before there was a burlesque scene in Chicago. This was in the mid 90s. And so I thought, well, I need my own act. And so I watched Sally Rand videos, the lady who did the
Yeah,
fan dance in the 1930s World Fair.
sure.
And that was how I created my own act for burlesque. So my version of burlesque and what burlesque is probably today might be a little bit different because I was more into the glitter and the feathers and
Mhm.
whatnot. Um, and it was a good time and I had a fabulous time with it, but I really incorporated it with music and with a variety show as opposed to being a strictly burlesque only performer.
And then you've ventured into silks, where I mean
Yes.
that's a whole different set of skills. That's not you using the musical part of your brain, obviously. It's using a whole different. You're using your entire body. I mean, that whole entire it is an entire body. At least from somebody who doesn't know what he's talking about when it comes just by looking at it, it seems like it's your entire body. I mean, I struggle going for like a jog or on a bike ride. I can't imagine doing something like that as like almost a secondary portion of where you started from.
It was a an accidental occurrence. I wanted to look for a aerial yoga class about 10 years ago, and I ended up in a aerial dance studio, and I just fell in love with it. And
Uh,
so I kept going and kept going back, and it took me 3 months before I could climb. Starting a new sport when you're 40 is not
no, it's
it's
not.
not an easy task,
No,
but
but here you
highly recommend it.
and here you are with your Sideshow Villains Deviant Cabaret 27th, which is Sunday in the West Loop at what was the name of the theater again? I can't remember.
Alhambra Palace.
Alhambra Palace, which is a restaurant where you can get some food as well and make it a whole night of it, right? Hang
Oh,
out, have a
yes.
good time.
Yeah.
For people who want to buy tickets, where can they buy tickets?
Right off the website, sideshowvillains.com.
And like you said, it'd be about a couple hours of experience, so it'll make a whole day of it, right? Have a good time, hang out in the West Loop. Dante, thank you so much for taking time to chat with me. I appreciate it.
Oh, thank you so much.
No problem.